For WMPR listening audience. Welcome to another edition of Soul Talks Money and More. I am your host, Dr. Sabrina Edmond Williams, educator and investor, opening minds and closing contracts. I am so noted and I am super excited to be here with you this third Monday in December. I got to start this show off today, Mr. Armstrong, by sending out a big shout out and congratulations to Coach Carson and the JSU Tigers for a phenomenal win on Saturday against those South Carolina State University Bulldogs. I tell you, you went over there and took care of business, brought that win back home to Jackson State University, to the state of Mississippi, as well as the SWAC. So we are super excited that we got that win. And again, a big shout out this morning to Coach Carson and the Tigers, the I love. And I just want to say to all my JSU friends, all of my JSU friends, um, I have nothing but mad respect for my Tigers and what you have accomplished. And I am Jaguar proud this morning. Jaguar proud. Gotta get that in this morning. So let me just kind of do a recap here, if you will, of my week. I had an opportunity about the middle of the week to go down to Hazelhurst, Mississippi to be with Elder Kendrick Barnes, First Lady Carrie Barnes, and the St. Peter Church of Christ Holiness USA down in Hazelhurst to share my message on the importance of building, protecting, and transferring wealth in the Black community. I certainly appreciate the warm welcome I received down at Hazelhurst, Elder Barnes and First Lady Barnes. Thank you so much for the hospitality. Thank you for opening up your congregation, inviting your congregants in, and more importantly, for supporting the work that we are trying to do. I thank you and I appreciate you, and I look forward to working with the two of you. We also had an opportunity on Saturday to work with Mr. Roderick Brown, and I have to just kind of stop and tell this story. Now, this just kind of shows the power of media and how people respond to media. So, about 2 months or so ago, Mr. Brown actually heard me speaking on Dr. Liddell's Financial Literacy Hour. He heard me on the radio. He heard me talking about my book, and Mr. Brown didn't just, he wasn't a hearer of the word only. He reached out to Dr. Liddell to find out how he could get a copy of my book. And lo and behold, my good friend Dr. Liddell said, I'm going to one up you. I'm not just going to let you know how you can get ordering information. I'm going to put you in contact with the author of the book. So I had an opportunity to connect with Mr. Brown, and Mr. Brown blessed me by pulling together a virtual session, which we actually did for him this past Saturday with some of his friend circle. And we had a very interesting conversation around my book. It was the first time that I had an opportunity to do something of that sort where I allowed people to come in and just kind of give me feedback on the book, what their takeaways were from the book. Because usually when I'm speaking in front of audiences that may not have even read my material. So I definitely appreciate that opportunity that you provided for me, Mr. Brown. I'm so happy that you were listening to WMPR on that particular day, and that you did take action and reach out to Dr. Liddell, my good friend, Dr. Liddell. So thank you so much. I also want to mention that not only did we have people that were in attendance in that session, but again, we had people that acted on the messaging, took action. So I want to give a special shout out to Dr. Vanessa Patterson, who is actually my customer of the week. Dr. Patterson was on that call. She expressed her feelings and her sentiments around the parts of the book that she had read that actually spoke to her heart and what she's experiencing in her family. So Dr. Patterson said, I'm not going to delay. She picked up the phone after we finished the session, and I was able to connect with her. She purchased multiple copies of the book, not one, not just for herself, but she wanted to make sure that her family was armed with this information. So we certainly appreciate you, Dr. Patterson, for taking action. And that's a word you're going to hear me say quite a bit over the next couple of weeks on the radio and certainly going into 2025. It's one thing for us to be hearers of the word, but we also need to be doers of the word as well. So we've written this book. We have put forth a guide to help you and your family. And it's time now for you to take action. I've been on this radio program about 3 months or so now, maybe a little longer, and we've been talking about the same thing. Our messaging has not changed. So it's time for those of you that have consistently heard me, if you have not done so, to take action. And I just want to say that it's kind of hard to believe that we are officially halfway through the month of December. I'm amazed. This year has just gone. Where is it gone? It's gone, you guys. In less than 10 days, we will once again be gathering with our family and friends to celebrate Christmas this time. Many of us will no doubt be exchanging gifts with our loved ones and our friends that we purchased gifts for at one of the super deals that we probably found on Black Friday. So, for our food for thought today, I'd like to take a look at the economic impact of Black Friday spending. You know, the show is entitled Soul Talks Money and More. And today, God laid something on my heart that I need to give to you. And we're going to talk about Black Friday spending. Back in the day, or maybe I should say back in my day, Black Friday was the day after Thanksgiving. It was that day that you got up early. I mean, super early, before the crack of dawn, pretty much like I got up this morning. You got up with your family. You camped outside of Walmart, Target, or one of your favorite stores. You stood in super long lines, really long lines. You pushed and pushed and pushed your way to the front of the line. And when that unfortunate employee opened the door, you rushed that person. You rushed in those doors. And sometimes, unfortunately, there have been incidents where that person that opened the door didn't fare too well. But back in the day, we rushed that employee to get inside of that store because we knew that there were only a limited number of televisions, video game consoles, or other items that were available at the discounted price on Black Friday. Yeah, we fell for the advertising. We fell into that mode of scarcity, and we just knew that we had to be the first so we could get that super deal. That was Black Friday back in the day, back in my day. My, how things have changed. Black Friday is no longer just a day. It has morphed into an entire event. Many people leave Thanksgiving dinner early so they can start their Black Friday shopping. Not only do we have Black Friday, we have Small Business Saturday and Cyber Monday. And more impressively, Black Friday has actually become a multi-billion-dollar phenomenon that continues to break sales records. Now think about it. Just this year, even with many people expressing concerns about the state of our economy and high inflation, these things were expressed just a few weeks before when they went into the voting booth. You know, the buzzwords were the economy, the economy, the economy. But on Black Friday of this year, not last year, this year, the Black Friday sales exceeded $36 billion. Dollars. That's billion with a B as in boy, with 10.8 billion of those dollars being in online sales. So that means we didn't even go to the stores. We sat in our homes and purchased 10 billion, almost $11 billion worth of goods on Black Friday. Now that's a lot of money, people. That's a lot of money. I'm talking billions with a B. And in case you may be wondering exactly where we spent all that money, according to the sources that I have reviewed, are you ready for this? $1.77 billion was spent with Walmart, the Walton family, as if they needed more money. $900 million was spent with Mr. Bezos, Amazon. $500 million was spent with Target. $400 million was spent at Best Buy. $60 million was spent on TikTok. TikTok, okay? Just under $60 million was spent with Temu. That's the company out of China, I do believe. And then we gave them another $40 million in purchases with Shein or Shein, however you want to pronounce it. You know what I'm talking about, Shein. We gave them $40 million. So that's a whole lot of money that was circulated through the economy on Black Friday, $36 billion. Now, with that much money circulating, I'm sure you're wondering, what in the world did we buy? What did we purchase? What were the hot ticket items on Black Friday? So it appears that they were electronics, clothing, toys, wellness products, vacations, and holiday decorations. We spent $36 billion on Black Friday. Now, in the marketplace, you fall into one of two categories. We are either selling goods or buying them. We're either making money or we're spending money. Unfortunately, in our community, that being the Black community, we are generally on the spending and buying side of the marketplace activities. It has been estimated that our annual spend as a community is somewhere between 1.3 and 1.8 trillion with a T, trillion dollars. Sad part about that is it's also estimated that 80% of our Black owned businesses fail within their first 12 to 18 months of opening. So when I hear that $36 billion figure thrown around that was spent on Black Friday, I can't help but to wonder how much of that money was spent, number one, by our community, and number two, how much of that $36 billion was spent in our community? How much did our community benefit from Black Friday spending? I want you to just meditate on that one for a minute because I'm about to shift gears and I'm going to bring it all back full circle in just a moment. Now, yesterday afternoon, I happened to receive a text message with an article that I found quite interesting, and I want to just share this with you. The article was entitled 40-Year-Old Dad, I'm the first millionaire in my family, and here's how I'm building generational wealth. Here's how I'm building generational wealth. Well, you know, with a messaging like mine, building, protecting, and transferring wealth in the Black community, certainly that title piqued my interest. So I went ahead and read the article. And this young man listed 4 things that he is doing to build wealth. And that's not just wealth, that's generational wealth for his family. Number one, he said he is consistently acquiring assets, and he specifically mentioned 2 classes of assets. He's mentioned real estate and stock. Now, when I go back and I look at where we spend our money on Black Friday, let's see, let me go back over here and look because I want to make sure before I say this that I'm in the right place. So our hot ticket items that we purchased on Black Friday included electronics, clothing, toys, wellness products, vacations, and holiday decorations. So this young man says he's building wealth by acquiring assets. I don't see any of the things that I listed just now as being assets per se. So it made me think about some things. The second thing he said he's doing is he's taking advantage of tax savings strategies. I'll read that again. He's taking advantage of tax savings strategies. So we know in just a few days, we're 16 days into December. So in about 14, 15 days, we'll be at the beginning of a new year. And we typically start thinking about tax preparation. We get excited, some of us waiting at the thought of waiting to get all our information together so that we can go file our taxes and get the tax refunds that we feel like we are due or that we have coming to us. But this man is building generational wealth, and it doesn't sound like he's sitting around waiting for a tax refund. He said he is taking advantage of tax saving strategies. So I'm here to tell you, he probably started strategizing somewhere between June, July, and December, because that's generally when people who are building wealth meet with their tax strategists, as opposed to January through April when people meet with their tax preparers. Now that may have gone over your head. I'm gonna let it sit right there, and I'll come back to that on another show. That's a topic for a whole nother show right there. But this young man says he's building generational wealth by taking advantage of tax savings strategies. The third thing he said he's doing is, and this is the one that really piqued my interest right here, I'm gonna be honest with you. He said he is preparing for the unexpected. How is he doing that, Dr. Williams? Well, I'm glad you asked. He's setting up an estate plan. He's purchasing some life insurance, and he's also established a family trust. He has obviously learned to trust, and he didn't even read my book, I don't think. But this young man says he is preparing for the unexpected. The fourth thing that he's doing, I want to just say, I admire this one as well, and it's so necessary. He's teaching his children about money early. He's teaching his children about money early. Okay? He's not focused on buying $36 billion worth of toys and electronics and all those things. He probably bought the stock for Walmart, Target, Amazon, so that he could teach his children about money early on. I'd love to tell you that this young man was a member of our community, but sadly, he was not. He was not. I think he was a member of the Latin American community. But I do believe there is something to be taken away from the information he shared in the article, particularly his recommendation for preparing for the unexpected, setting up an estate plan, purchasing some life insurance, and also creating the family trust. My people, I posed 2 questions to you earlier. I wanted to know how much of that $36 billion was spent. by our people and with our people. And I do have another nagging thought in my head, and I just want to pose this, and I'm going to do it this way. If you were a part of the marketplace during Black Friday activities, if you were a part of that $36 billion that was circulated on Black Friday, my question to you is this. If you were in the marketplace, which side of the marketplace were you on? The buying side, the spending side, or were you a seller? Were you receiving money or were you giving money, spending money? And more importantly, I want to ask this question. Out of all the money that you've spent, whether it's buying the next video game or the newest video console, I don't even know which one we're on, the newest iPhone, buying, the next toy, nice clothes for your kids. My question to you is this. How much did you spend on resources to increase your family's financial literacy? How much did you spend? What are you doing? Like that 40-year-old says, what are you doing to position yourself and your family to build generational wealth? How much did you spend? I want to let that sit right there. And I'm going to bring this back home. I've been out here since July with the messaging of building, protecting, and transferring wealth in the Black community. God gave me something to give to my people in the form of knowledge. Knowledge, that's my profession. I am an educator. I've been teaching people for a long time, and I will continue to do so. But I think it's time for us to start thinking different, start moving different. So we have this resource for you, Learning to Trust, a Black Family's Guide for Building, Protecting, and Transferring Wealth. And I'm encouraging you to support this work. There's a conversation that needs to be had in our community around wealth and wealth building and generational wealth building. I like what the young man said about teaching his children about money, because in our community, oftentimes, what we are able to amass is lost within one generation. Think about it. Our grandparents left us land, houses, different resources, maybe a little money in the bank. And many of us go through that in one generation. We don't have the skill set or the knowledge to protect it, to learn how to transfer it to the next generation. And we do have the ability to change that, but we've got to do something different. We can't just be hearers of the word and not doers of the word. I know we like to use the term or the phrase that knowledge is powerful, but I'm here to tell you knowledge is only powerful when it is applied knowledge. So we can talk about it all day long. We can give you education and information. But until and unless there is implementation, your situation is still not going to change. It's going to stay the same. So I've also heard it said that insanity is doing the same thing the same way and expecting different results. So you know what your 2024 was like. You know what 2023 was like. We can go all the way back to 2020. We know what that was like for us. But if we want something different in 2025, and you know that Dr. Williams has been on here advocating for us to put forth our own personal and our family project 2025. But if we want something different in 2025, my good people, we're going to have to do something different. We cannot continue to do the same things and expect different results because it's simply not going to happen. And as Frank Melton, remember him? He would always say, and that, my friends, is the bottom line. It's not going to happen. Nothing is going to change until we do. So I have a challenge for you. We are entering the final days until the Christmas holiday. We'll be gathered with friends and family to celebrate. I'm gonna make this easy for you. I'm going to make myself available this coming Saturday. I believe that's the 22nd. Was it's 21st, 22nd. I may be off on my date. I think it's 21st. I stand corrected. 21st of January of December. I will be at Bunny Sue's in Pearl. My good friend Miss Natasha over there, serving up some very good coffee at Bunny Sue's. And not only is she serving good coffee, you guys, you have a very pleasant experience when you go into that restaurant. You leave full of coffee, of course, and full of spirit and good spirits when you go in there, because she has some very good vibe in that restaurant, in that barista. So we will be over there with you, for you, on Saturday. I'll get there about 9 a.m. and I'll stay as long as I need to stay. I'm going to say my cutoff time is going to be 11 o'clock right now. But I'm encouraging you to come get your copy of Learning to Trust, a Black Family's Guide for Building, Protecting, and Transferring Wealth. Don't just come for yourself, come and get copies for your family. In 2025, Dr. Williams is going to be rolling out some programs, and I'll talk more about those in the coming weeks. But we are going to be working with families because my goal is to change the statistics right here in the state of Mississippi. We're going to start Charity Begins at Home and spreads abroad. We're going to start in Mississippi doing some work to get you guys positioned to start building generational wealth. And with that being said, I see I have a caller. Let me take this call. Good morning, caller. You're on the air with Dr. Williams. Who do I have the pleasure of speaking with this morning?
Hey, good morning, Dr. Williams. This is Mr. Brown.
Well, good morning, Mr. Brown. Thank you for calling.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for taking my call. And also just want to share the sentiment that you mentioned earlier. And again, thank you for attending our virtual Saturday session. And as we spoke, and as you said earlier, it's about really changing the conversation and making sure we're having conversations about topics that impact our lives, impact our families, impact our communities. And so it was just some rich discussions came out of that session. It was an interest group. And, we had some aha moments, we had some questions, we had some wonderings, and, just some things that resonated with participants from the book. So, it just really opened up the conversation to be had, and a lot of information was taken away. So I just want to say kudos to you for attending that session. Kudos to you for sharing those nuggets of wisdom with us.
Well, thank you, Mr. Brown. And I just want to ask you, because there are definitely, I'm sure there are people in the listening audience who have not had the opportunity to purchase the book, read the book. And when we talk about learning to trust, they don't really know or understand what we're talking about. So I ask you, what was one of your takeaways, if you don't mind sharing? I know you've read the work.
Yeah, so, as I mentioned during that session, for me, one of the biggest takeaways was that my thought of estate planning was for death purposes only. This is something you do to prepare for, your death and how you want your assets to be distributed among your family members. But one of the things after reading the book is that estate planning, it should be done while you are alive to protect your assets while you are alive. And so, for me, it was changing that mindset, changing my mindset that estate planning is something you do to prepare for death. But no, this is something you do to prepare to protect your assets while you are alive. And another thing that resonated with me is that, the people that I invited to the interest group, I was looking for people that had children because I said, well, this is something that will apply to them. But after reading the book, it you have any type of asset, whether you have children or not, you want to protect those assets while you're alive. But when you leave, you also have to leave those assets to somebody. And so those were just two things that resonated with me from the book.
Well, thank you so much for calling in. I got caught up in you talking, and I'm looking at this clock, and I see Mr. Armstrong over here kind of peering at me, and I definitely don't want to go over into anybody else's time this morning, but thank you so much for calling and sharing that with us this morning, and thank you again for the opportunity.
Yes, ma'am, and continue the good work.
Thank you. All righty. Well, that, my friends, is my time. I'm looking at the clock. I don't know if Mr. Henderson is in the house and if he'll be following me shortly, but I just want to thank you for allowing me this morning to talk with you about Black Friday. I wanted to put some things on your mind. My job is not to make you think what I think or how I think, but my job is, as an educator, to make you think. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Happy holidays to you, and I look forward to seeing you right here on next Monday morning at 7 a.m. for another edition of Soul Talks Money and More.